Damn. Yeah.
Have to agree on everything or anything, but that doesn't mean we can't have a civil conversation about
Correct,
Right?
correct, correct, true.
I'm too tired to attack anybody.
Well, you're gonna have to stay up a
Henry,
little bit
if
longer.
you want to get off to a good start, you can just like rag on me for a little bit and warm
No,
me up.
no, no, no ragging. I mean, well, let me just start off to say, I mean, I get what you do, Klein. I
it. Okay.
understand, it's the business. We all, I mean, no matter what anybody say, clicks or views, revenue or whatever, it's YouTube. So the bottom line is we all know what we're here for. And that's not to put police accountability to the side and say that's not my passion and that's not what I love doing. But when you're on a platform like YouTube, come on, guys, we already know. We already know. It's about entertainment. And even if you're trying to spread a message, you have to bring some form of entertainment to attract the people. So I understand when you guys, you get upset with me because I may talk to police officers a certain way or whatever. I understand that nobody likes to hear vulgar language all the time. But at the same time, you got to understand where I come from. You got to understand my perspective of where I come from and what I've seen police do to people ever since I was 6, 7, 8 years old. So I mean, I would rather hear you guys because I got to be one of the most transparent auditors out there. So I would like to hear the problems that you guys have with me pertaining to the videos that I've done. And I know we can use the shelter one for first or last, however y'all want to do it. But let's get to it.
Oh, we don't have to do the short one right away. Well, let's start with the one where you were at the tow company. Um, my problem with that was you were going to a public business trying to request, a FOIA from them. Now they do have a government contract, and I understand that, but you have to understand that the company themselves are not going to. You're not going to receive the FOIA from the company. You still have to go to the city or the county or state or whatever is applicable. And the fact that you and whoever that gentleman what you were with was, and the way you were acting towards the people that are working there and the police, it was all for show. It was all for the clicks and views. Because I'm sure you knew that you weren't going to get anywhere. I mean, or maybe I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt and say you knew that you weren't going to get anywhere with that, right?
All right, so let me say this. I gotta go a little back. I started out in January. I watched Police Accountability for a short while on YouTube, and it was the thing that I wanted to do. Ever since I came in to this game, I've always told my viewers that not only is this a documentation of tyranny and corruption, but it's also a documentation of my life as well. And I jumped in here first. So
Yeah.
I will admit that every audit that I did, I wasn't knowledgeable in those areas. Okay. Now, the knowledge
Fair
that
enough.
I've gotten lately on the books that I've read, but in the earlier days, like, 7, 8, 9 months ago, I was getting them from other auditors. Now we
Right.
know all information isn't good information.
True.
So to jump into the tow truck company, the information that I had at the time was that okay, you can go there, and most likely you're not going to get the information, just for the simple fact because they're going to look at you as, well, who are you? Okay. The problem I had with it is okay, this particular tow trucking company does have a contract with Boston Police. They do have a contract with Boston Police. We already know the corruption with Boston Police. We already know if you're contracting with the Boston Police, then you're skimming from off the top. That's just how I look at it. Going into details and stats, I'm not getting into it. But I know that from living in multiple cities. Okay, so when we get there, just for the simple fact of how I know how they operate in communities throughout Boston and how they do,
Yep.
I didn't particularly like how he responded to me when we asked a simple question. So that's when it went south. So to say clicks and views, no, well, yeah, you can say clicks and views, but at the same time, you're not going to just dismiss me as a private citizen when I'm coming to ask you a legitimate question. And just because I got had my camera with me, you got a little put off, and you decided just to treat me like I was nobody, along with KTL. That's keeping them liable. So that's
Yep.
when it went south. Okay. I always come respectful. I always speak to people with respect. And just like Rice Krispies say, I give what I get. I always give people the benefit of the doubt. And most of the times when I'm engaging with police or other civil servants, it always goes south because they say something to me that's not acceptable.
And if I
Hey,
could
hey,
say,
hey, Resistance. Do you remember me at all?
I truly don't. I really don't.
Okay.
I think I do remember you saying you sent me an email in the early days. You know, the early days for
Yeah,
me is
yeah.
months
When you
ago.
first started, yeah, when you
Right.
first started, you were hanging out with Josh. You know, you know,
No,
and
no, 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 no,
yeah,
no,
well, yeah.
no,
That's why
no.
actually
I never hung
got in
out
touch
with
with you.
Josh.
You know,
I
but
never hung out with Josh. I mean, we could talk about that as well too. But you know,
yeah.
if we're
But
gonna talk, we're gonna
anyway,
clear things up.
anyway, besides that,
Tim,
you know,
Tim,
it's like
Tim, Tim, Tim,
it's,
Tim, Tim.
Kenny,
Tim, relax.
can
Tim,
I
hold on.
finish real quick, Kenny, real quick,
Just
Kenny.
next time, okay, but
You
hold
know,
on. But next time, don't interrupt him when he's talking, okay?
No, it's good. It's
Definitely.
good.
Okay.
I'm listening to it. Go ahead, Tim. It's cool. We can talk. We can cross converse a
You
little
know,
bit.
I mean, I'm on a delay too for some reason. I don't know
Okay.
why, and I'm sorry. But you know, geez, Resistance. I remember, like, I emailed you and you emailed me back, and oh god, it was a while ago. Jeez, got to be a year ago. And it was just like I was like telling you, like, don't you understand how, like, even what you're doing, sounds sketchy, and it looks sketchy, and you actually agreed with me, and that's why I was like, wow, this guy
What do you
got it.
mean? Well, I mean, first of all, we all know that when we read texts or messages, we can take them differently than it being spoken. So I probably took it out of context, or maybe you took it out of context. But I really can't talk on that.
Well,
Sorry,
I mean,
I'm having an echo. I can't talk on it
I appreciate
because
it.
I don't remember.
Said that you were thanking me for giving you that information, because I actually gave you, like, the actual Massachusetts law, if you remember. Well,
On
actually,
what? On what? I'm
um,
trying hard to remember you. That's why I'm asking you on
I,
what.
I believe it was when you were like, looking at the fuel tanks in Everett.
No, I've never been in Everett. In the fuel
Or
tank. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Fuel tanks in Everett?
no,
Nah,
fuel
that
tank.
wasn't me. That wasn't me.
It wasn't Everett. Okay, where was it? Chelsea? I don't know.
Tim, what is your
Never did. Never did a
Sorry, guys.
audit in Chelsea
I mean, we're
neither.
talking about Boston areas here.
and what's the point? I'm sorry. What's your
Well,
point?
my point is, I mean, a year ago, this guy was, like, willing to listen to me, and he was like, "Oh shit, I didn't know."
Well, I'm actually not too
And now it's
sure
just
if you
like,
got the right person, but I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. But the first things first, I started at the end of January.
Yeah.
My first video was like January 28th or 29th, something like that.
I think
Hey,
you're confusing him with someone.
So
All right, now
can we,
Tim, hold on. Asian, go ahead, Asian. Now it's your turn, Tim. Just hold on for a minute.
Yeah,
Asian was waiting patiently.
if I could, thank you, sir. If I could just get a hot minute, I just wanted to introduce myself formally here to the Resistance because I've never had an opportunity to speak to him. So, welcome up to the panel, Resistance. It's good to meet you. My name is Asian. Just so you understand a little bit of my background and who I am, to put everything into context. For me, whenever I speak on the panel, I'm not a 1A auditor, right? I'm a husband and a father of two young boys. I ran into the community about 6 months ago because I believe in my constitutional rights. And I started on the 1A side of the community, AFA, et cetera, Omaha Cock Block, to the point where I subscribed. I donated monetarily through super chats and PayPals to continue the effort because I also recognize that freedom is not free, right? All of this stuff. But as time went by, I started asking myself, because I ran into other types of content, I wonder if there's channels that audit auditors, right? Because at the end of the day, to your point, this might be entertainment for you, but for me, as a consumer of your content, it's all about the learnings, right? Of trying to continue to bridge the gap between police and the citizens as it relates to 1A rights, etc. Right? So when I run into what I consider poor tactics in specific auditors and I'm supporting them, right? I think number one, I'm entitled to question it, right, because of my support, and secondarily, if at the end of the day, if I can't align, then I'll just unsubscribe, right? So I don't know you as a 1A auditor, just so you understand. I haven't seen many of your videos, only of things that have been mentioned within the community. Um, but for me, understand that that's where I'm coming from, and the reason why I'm on Kenny's panel is because I'm all about learning about the good auditors and the bad. Because as Muhammad Ali once said, you could have 100 snakes in the basket, but if I told you only two of them had venom, would you still stick your hand in the basket? Right, and that works on both sides of the fence.
And it
Muhammad
does.
Ali
And
did not say that.
Tim, hold on. Just relax for a minute, okay? Go ahead,
uh,
Resistance. Go ahead, Resistance.
and nice to meet you, Asian. I appreciate those words that you just said.
Thank you, sir.
Very true. And let me just say this. First of all, I know I've made mistakes. Like I told you guys, I'm a work in progress. I jumped in it head first. So I never claimed to be this constitutional guy or this lawman or, somebody who knew the law all the way up to the top. No, I'm just smart enough to know the basics and to know what I can do and what I cannot do. And I know I made mistakes. So I don't want you guys to think, oh, I just post things up on YouTube and maybe that was a little shaky. But you know what? There's a lot of things that police do that's a little shaky, and they continue on with their day and come back to work the next day as if they didn't crack somebody in their head that didn't deserve it, or as if they didn't violate somebody's rights by pulling them over after profiling them for 2 or 3 miles. Okay, I'm not perfect, but I try to be a different kind of auditor. I try to give you guys the perspective from the streets, from where it's really real at. If you see my videos are in the hood. Whatever city I go to the hood. I go to where the crimes are very high, and when you go into these places, you're not going in there with patent leather on. No, I'm going in there with my wool coat, and I'm going to be as abrasive as they are to me. That's just my standpoint. I know a lot of people don't agree to it, but this is where I come from. This is what I've seen for 35 years, ever since I was a kid. And to say all that, nothing changes if nothing changes. So I think you guys need to look at a little bit more of my videos because it seems like that the bad is outweighing the good. I mean, I've been all across the country within this summer, Seattle, Portland, Oregon, so all the protests here in Boston. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and gloat and tell you guys what I've done in my videos. I would just encourage you guys to see all the positive that I've tried to show you guys in my videos, the positive things that I've done in my videos, the education that I always try to offer. And yes, there has been a lot of videos where I wasn't able to offer education because the servants wouldn't allow me to. They got in my way as far as trying not to answer my questions, or they tried to make it seem like I was mentally unstable, or they just tried to dismiss me as if I didn't have a right to ask them a question. So you may be looking at one of the few auditors that came into this game with his heart in his sleeve. I'm passionate about this. And at the end of the day, when somebody asks me, hey, why do you do this? And I really think about it and I say, because I believe it's right. John the Baptist, if y'all familiar with John the Baptist, or maybe I should say the story of John the Baptist, he wasn't a he
Yeah, I'm
wasn't a
familiar
sweet
with that.
guy. He wasn't a sweet guy. He was about giving up the word, and he walked around a little funky. He slept in caves and then behind bushes and stuff. And people looked at him with a little side eye. See, I'm not worried about people looking at me with a side eye. What I really want people to see is what I'm showing on my screen, and really don't pay attention to me. Pay attention to the tyranny and the corruption that I'm showing. Yeah, I know I could get in the way sometimes. It could take away from the education that's trying to offer. Like I said, I'm a work in progress. I'm human. I'm not perfect, and I try to be as transparent as possible. And I have no, I don't back down from questions, challenging questions when it comes to my videos. I mean, just like I have having this conversation with you guys on the panel, I have personal
Thank you for coming up
conversations.
here. Thank
I have
you.
I have personal conversations with people who I know, or people who I've just met that became subscribers to my channel. And I ask them, I said, what do you want to see? What do you think is better? Unfortunately, majority of them rock with what I do. And I was had a conversation with somebody earlier. They said, man, I love your stuff. You're giving the education, you're showing people what's going on. But then again, that may be from a different perspective than from what you guys see. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody sees it from a different view. And I said, damn, I appreciate it, but I was really looking for some criticism, because
No,
criticism is the only thing. Criticism and mistakes is the only thing that's going to make you better.
now here's the thing, resistance. I personally, I can't speak for anyone else on the panel, but I'm not necessarily trying to question your heart or why you got into this business or even why you continue to do what you do. The issue with me, with at least, I want to go back to the officer, the tow truck thing. Now we just learned, and this is like I said, I'm always learning things new every day. That you didn't necessarily know that you couldn't just go there and get it, which is fine. I'm not I'm not knocking you for that. Sometimes we go in places, we think we get the right information because we get it from the wrong source. It happens, whatever. But the thing is when you realize that that's the issue, I think it would behoove you. It's because of such the large audience you have, and the impact that you have on your audience, and maybe they want to go out and do some auditing too. And do you want them to go and make the same mistakes you made, or would it be better to clear it up and say, "Hey, look, I was wrong in
No,
this. I should have went to the police station and did it that way. That way, they won't make your same mistakes, and they can learn to be better based off of you, and maybe even have more respect for you because of that."
And to your point, resistance, real quick, if I may, resistance. And to your point, your last point, resistance. If I was a 1A auditor, I would actually embrace channels like Kenny Klein and Masshole. And the reason why is because it gives me a platform, an opportunity to kind of share my side of the story, right? Because again, at the end of the day, the more your supporters know about you, your characteristics, personality, and your intent in doing what you're doing, I think it'll just grow your followers.
Well, yeah.
Instead of creating this divide, because theoretically, aren't you trying to do the same thing with law? aren't you trying to bridge that gap with law instead of destroying the bridge?
I definitely want to bridge the gap with law.
So let me ask you one question, if I may, to that exact point. So the notion of defunding the police,
mhm,
maybe
mhm.
restructuring the police or even allocating more funds. And here's my use case example to why I say this. Like, how the hell could you say something like that? Well, here's one use case example. Like, instead of police responding to a 911, that someone is rolling on a concrete floor on a busy intersection street in the evening,
Mhm.
wearing militia type clothing,
Okay, I'm gonna respond to that.
with a full mask on, and they're responding to a 911 call, and they show up, and all they have is their service revolvers. Instead of me maybe being funded with body cameras and tasers and beanbag shotguns in the trunk, the only thing they can default to in order to do their investigation and thereby defend themselves to ensure that they also get home to their loved ones and children is default to the service revolver. And this is why I say it doesn't make sense to defund the police.
Well,
Hold on. Sorry for my phone being messed up. I can't switch out because I'm driving back home. But I'm gonna respond to yours. For one, the police shouldn't have to come to a man exercising his constitutional rights. Let's go there. For two, wearing a mask is not illegal, and it's COVID. So for one, that's another. We're in a pandemic. All right. So I shouldn't have to have guns drawn on me, or anybody shouldn't have guns drawn on themselves for rolling on the ground. All right. Nobody should be getting arrested for that either. But it happens. Now, the police, as far as they overreact a lot, they sure fucking do. And the issue. No. I'm responding to what he's talking about. He's clearly talking about me. Clearly. No, but I have the right to respond to that. You know what?
Omaha.